What's up, guys? Back from a little break. All right. When I last left off, I was in the middle of working on this brand new Oath Kenrith deck. And I've done a little bit more refining of it. Played it the equivalent of it in Canadian Highlander, and concluded that the deck has some serious problems with being overrun early. But in Commander, you've got an extra 10 life buffer, at least in 1v1. So that's not as much of an issue. And of course, the mana is a lot more reliable as well, because people don't tend to run Blood Moon type effects in Commander very often. This came up against the perennial Golos Tireless Pilgrim, who seems to be everywhere, to the point where I see people in their multiplayer games requesting people not bring this commander to the table. It is pretty insane. 5 generic mana, getting any land, setting up land combos. And like the same problem with Nissa Vastwood Seer, if you kill Golos repeatedly, he kind of pays for half the commander tax every time he comes into play. Or if you're fetching 2 mana lands every time you play him, you can just chain cast him over and over and over again, as long as he makes it into the battlefield the first time, which is pretty insane. And of course, if you're able to build up to that 7 mana ultimate, it is often game winning. I don't really have any ability to let you look at the deck list right now. Of course, you're always welcome to email me about it. But I'll pause when I do some searching. This is quite a game, actually. Played just a few minutes ago, and showcases some of the finer points of this deck. Nate and I have been tinkering around with the Oath creatures. Originally, we were just running with the same Oath creatures as Canadian Highlander. We were using the Sphinx of the Steel Wind and the Imperial Archangel. And while those guys have tremendous resiliency against aggressive decks, in Commander, the ability to shroud yourself from damage, the ability to gain life, and have those protections a little less useful, mainly because people tend to play with more theft and more sweepers and fewer individual targeted removal spells in Commander. That said, I'm not convinced that our choices are great either. And in fact, I had a game earlier tonight that I wound up actually losing due to a mistake. The game was winnable. I misclicked when I cast a Cryptic Command, and I was intending to bounce a Spell Shock and tap his creatures. And I think that would have bought me enough time to actually get back into the game and win with Kenrith's life gain ability, but I accidentally just drew a useless card instead, and was down to 4, and he had Spell Shock still in play, as well as the guy who makes you take 2 additional damage every time a red source deals damage to you. So it's insane with Spell Shock, and insane with this guy that whenever I do an activated ability, I take 1 point of damage from that too. So I was taking 3 from that, and 4 for casting a spell and Spell Shock, and I just ran out of life and couldn't do anything due to the misclick. But anyway, the deck has basically been undefeated, I think, since a few days ago when I was first starting to test it outside of the misclick with Cryptic Command. And this is quite a game, so I'm going to kick this off. Very, very good start. Vampiric Tutor probably into Soul Ring, into Brainstorm or Remand on his turn 2, untap, hopefully into Fairy, and then Lotus Commander from there. Very, very straightforward hand. Leyline of the Boys, playing the Golos. All right, just going to leave with Mystery Enforced. I was actually amazed about midway through this game. I actually disconnected and had to completely restart my client and come back, and the replay still works. I have no idea why, considering how just an ordinary game replay often fails. So I was very overjoyed to see that. Hopefully it'll cooperate the second time around. He just passes. I'm going to get Underground Sea and cast Vampiric Tutor. As you can see the deck list here momentarily. Pretty much usual suspects. There's some weird things. Here's one of the creatures. Niv-Mizzet Perrin is one of the ones that Nate suggested using, and it has great synergy with this other dude. If I can find him. Where are you? Jin Gataxias Core Augur. I suggested using this as it's kind of the closest thing to Grizzlebrand that you have. And the fact that you get to cast him essentially for free and untap into counter magic to protect him. In fact, you start untapped once Jin comes out, and you can draw 7, and then they really have 1 turn to deal with him, and then their hand gets destroyed by Jin Gataxias, and the game is all but over. I'm not convinced that either of these creatures belongs, and if anybody has any suggestions about better Oath creatures, I'm all ears for it. You can't use Iona, and I think we probably would use Iona if that were a choice. I'm pretty sure that Jin belongs, just because the draw 7 effect is just so insanely savage. I'm not convinced that Niv-Mizzet Perrin is all that good, particularly because you get plenty of card advantage from Jin anyway. And with this thing, the pinging ability is actually kind of suspect, because you wind up shooting down, if you're not shooting their face, which isn't very useful, you wind up killing off their creatures, and then they can use Oath, which can sometimes lead to disastrous outcomes. So I don't really like the pinging ability on him. The rest of it isn't very useful. He can't really be cast. So I think Niv Mizzet Perrin might go away. I think probably the Sphinx of the Steel Wind might be the better card to run in this slot. And that way you've got some sort of life gain against decks like that red deck that was giving me problems. Anyway, here I'm just going to go get the Soul Ring that I explained that I would get. There it is. Play Soul Ring. Very nicely set up here with Remand. Leyline of the Boys. Oh, he's got his own Soul Ring. All right, well, no point in remanding that. I'm just going to brainstorm a response and maybe hit one of my 2 pitch counters to stop that. Either Force of Will or the Pact of Negation, or Force of Negation. Instead I get Jin Gitaxias. Nope. And a land. So I'm going to put Jin down and then the Tropical Island, since I definitely want to reshuffle here. And he's got Beast Within on his, as a follow-up to kill my Soul Ring. And that's totally not fair. You just got yours for free. And I had to tutor for mine. Tonight has been a Soul Ring Mana Crypt night. I've had to face this, either this or Mana Crypt in nearly every single game I've played tonight. Out of about 7 or 8 games, I've had opponents play it, I think, 6 times. Kind of depressing, but it does happen. It's just high variance. That's the way the format is. But I will soldier on. I'm obviously playing Delta, so I can reshuffle and get Jen out of the way. All right. So it plays a Orzhov Basilica. You don't normally see these played very often in Commander, but they do make a lot of sense in Golos decks, since you essentially get the land for free. And then you can just replay the land that's bounced by Golos right away. All right, I'm going to fetch Tundra or Hallowed Fountain end of turn. Tithe, very nice. Not a land, but at least that guarantees I'll be able to hit 5 mana next turn, provided he doesn't have land destruction. All right. So he plays that forest that I saw before. It's very distinctive, weird-looking Beyond Theros lands. I saw a swamp earlier today. These were actually, it's funny, they put them online before they're available in the real world. I don't think that the set is actually formally released until the 24th. But you can already play with these bizarre basic lands. All right, it's clearly he's casting Golos. So I'm just going to remand that. I get Thran Dynamo. And this allows me to tithe end of turn to get Plateau. All right, bit of a crossroads here. I just wish that I had not drawn Wrenn and 6, because I really gave some thought here to just playing Gilded Lotus and waiting a turn to play Teferi and potentially my commander as well, or at least Wrenn and 6 plus my commander. But I don't know. I kind of was really hoping I would draw a counterspell to deal with Golos to keep it out of play for another turn. So with that in mind, I figured I get to draw a card, reasonable chance I could hit a 2-mana counter, and I unfortunately did not get one. I just got Fabricate, which is not bad, but a little bit slow. All right, so I fully expected him to play Golos right here. And down comes Golos the Pilgrim again. And he fetches up another Karoo, and then replays it right away. And this is scary. Notice 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's the magical number, and it's all the colors. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I can just tuck the Golos and go and Fabricate. Well, I can play a bunch of mana, and he can replay his Golos, but then I can probably Fabricate for Shackles and steal it, was my plan. But then he has a stupid Cyclonic Rift. So that really, really complicates things, since I'm going to have to figure out what to do. So this was a really, really, really long turn. You can see a bunch of time lopped off my clock. And I'm thinking about all the possible ways I can deal with this, okay? He did play a forest after he tutored up Boros Garrison. So he only has 4 cards in hand. He has not signaled another land card. And this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which means that if I actually am able to put the Soul Ring back into his deck, there's a non-zero chance that he may not have another land in play and he can't immediately use Golos. And that will buy me some time to possibly draw into an answer to it, or at least get some of my mana in play. Because if the Golos uses its 7-mana ability, given the way that this guy's deck is looking, I'm really suspicious that it will just be game ending. So I think this turn through a bunch of times. You can see me tapping and untapping land. I'm thinking, do I need to get mana into play? And I'm really kicking myself for the Teferi play now, given the fact that all it did was just draw a card and cost me 5 mana. If I had played some artifact mana instead, he may not have actually cast the Cyclonic Rift to, say, bounce a Gilded Lotus, and may have just played the Golos instead. But I'm going to play Teferi. This is sort of a panic situation. You can see it took me 2 full minutes to choose what I was going to do on this turn. I mean, this was just a extremely weak and slow defensive play, but gambling that the Soul Ring, killing the Soul Ring, would prevent him from hitting 7 mana, because that really seems like the only way into the game. I mean, I have other choices. I could have paid 4, cast Thran Dynamo, tap Thran Dynamo, and cast Crucible of Worlds, and regrew a land. And then, and probably regrew on the Polluted Delta, get a green thing, and cast the Wrenn in 6, and then fetch up Mystery Rainforest. It would have, put a bunch of mana into play, but if he just goes and gets something insane off Golos, then I could just lose the game right away, right? So I can't gamble that, and I figure that it's better for me to take my chances that he doesn't, in fact, have a 7th mana than the fact that he whiffs completely on Golos Tireless Pilgrim. So I elect to just do this play. Cross my fingers. He draws, and I see him tapping mana. And he untaps, and I'm thinking, oh shit, he does have a 7th land. But nope, he's just attacking. Of course, I'm going to chump block with my beast. And he casts Rhystic Study, and that's it. No Golos activation, and Sylvan. It's funny that I was relieved to see Rhystic Study and Sylvan Library come down versus what could have happened, of course. So I've got Teferi. I've got the ability to play mana, but I still need it. I was really, really hoping to draw a land here. If I draw a land, then I can go Fabricate. Unfortunately, I have to let him draw with Rhystic Study. Then I can get Expedition Map. I can play Expedition Map and sack it to go get Strip Mine, and I can kill off this source of black and white mana, which will reduce him down to just 4. He can't use Golos. Sure, I lose Teferi, but then I play Crucible of Worlds, and I Strip Mine this thing away, and then he's down to just 2 land, and I can probably win the game from there just by playing my commander and using it as a blocker. Unfortunately, no land at all, even after I level up Teferi to draw. So, regretfully, I'm just going to have to let him draw some cards with Rhystic Study. And now my game plan is hope that he doesn't have the ability to to draw more. I mean, this is just total wing and a prayer, right? I play the Gilded Lotus. He gets to draw a card from that. I tap Gilded Lotus, play Crucible of Worlds. That at least lets me get a land. And he's all the way up to 5 cards. And I know I've got this Deprive. So basically, as a backup plan, I know I can untap 2 land. I can at least pay the Rhystic Study cost, so he doesn't draw 1 more card. And if he uses Golos, I can deprive the best of the 3 cards. And that's kind of the only situation that I can foresee as a reasonable outcome. If he just gets unlucky and Golos just reveals 1 good card instead of 3, I might be able to deprive that and still be okay. And he does not have another land. That's so insane. So lucky. He's got the Soul Ring again. Of course, we saw that from before. And then this time I'm going to go get Mystic Sanctuary. I've now got 4 islands in place. The Sanctuary is going to allow me to put Vampiric Tutor back on top of my library. This is a nifty combo coming up here that was just enabled thanks to the printing of Mystic Sanctuary. This is why Deprive is in the deck. So you'll see I'll pay Deprive, bounce the Mystic Sanctuary back to my hand, and pay the Rhystic Study cost as well. That keeps Soul Ring out of play. Probably stops most of this turn's potential to draw mana, and since I am currently setting up a play with Winter Orb, keeping the Soul Ring out of play is really important. I mean, you'd think the guy already has, 7 mana in play and Sylvan Library. The idea of counterspelling Soul Ring seems to make no sense, but I am banking entirely on being able to own him with Winter Orb at an opportune moment. And hopefully that moment is fast approaching. I see him tapping a bunch of mana. And he casts Green Sun Zenith for 4, and I'm thinking, don't get Rex Sage and kill the Gilded Lotus. Please don't. And he gets Oracle of Moldea. Fantastic. Look, he's completely tapped out except for a Tropical Island. All right, there's the Vampiric Tutor that I got. Okay, so I'm going to pay the Rhystic Study cost. Play Thran Dynamo. Fabricate. Pay the cost. The bear comes to the rescue like usual. I'm going to go Mystic Sanctuary, the Deprive, back on top of my library. And then prevent him from... And this is probably... I think this is probably a bit of a mistake. I probably should have just let him draw a card there. But I did see that Lightning Greaves was on top of his deck. And with Sylvan out, I don't know. I didn't really feel like letting him dig for a bunch of lands really fast with his Oracle. So I really didn't want him to draw land knowing that the top card of his library is no good right now. Even if that meant that I had to tap out completely. But I do have 6 mana under the Winter Orb plus another potential mana here. A Sea of Clouds. And it's clearly a multiplayer card. And he reveals Lotus Cobra as he's drawing extra cards with his Sylvan. So we've seen Greaves, Lotus Cobra, and Sea of Clouds. He plays Lotus Cobra. He plays the Sea of Clouds for gets a free mana. He plays the Greaves. Greaves up Golos. Not sure why he did that instead of Greavesing up the Lotus Cobra. He could have hit me for 2 extra damage. But that's fine. I go down to 18, and he's all tapped out. Pretty damn good, and no land on top. All right. So I thought for a while about Vampiric Tutoring during upkeep, but obviously I know I have Deprive on top of my deck, so it's more important that I draw that right now, and I saved the Vampiric Tutor for a rainy day. So I think for a little bit here, and I decided I'm just going to play the Sylvan Library, sit on Deprive for another turn. I got plenty of life to work with, and I really just want to make sure that he doesn't do anything to kill off Winter Orb. Doesn't get any way to kill it, and I'm not going to play my commander as a result of that. I can wait a turn or two. And he's got Cursor on top still, and he reveals Demonic Tutor and casts it. And because of, obviously, Corrosive Grip, Abrupt Decay, plenty of answers to a Winter Orb I can't counter. This is the card to counter right now. So I'm going to Deprive it, paying the Ristic Study cost, bouncing the Sanctuary back to my hand again. It's kind of like a little mini Forbid buyback. Pretty gross. It only cost me 1 draw step too. I get smashed for 7. It's going to take me to 10. Okay, so I've been setting up this play this whole time. This is the turn I intend to Vampiric Tutor for Toxic Deluge to just win this game, right? So during upkeep, I cast Vampiric Tutor, and knowing that the top of his deck is again bad, and the way the mana works out, it's completely fine. I can just use the Thran Dynamo to pay the Ristic Study cost since I have the Gilded Lotus still. So I pay that. He doesn't get to draw. And I go looking through my deck, and I go and I look at T, and there's... Wait a minute. There is Toxic Deluge. How did I miss this? I swear when I looked at my deck, there was no Deluge in it. Oh my god, I did have Toxic Deluge. I swear I looked at it and I did not see this card. I just looked and looked and looked. I mean, I am playing pretty late at night. Oh, that's inexcusable. Well, anyway, barring not seeing Toxic Deluge, not knowing my own deck very well, I kind of panicked, and I looked around, I realized that Oath would be too slow because I don't have life gain creatures anymore, or creatures that shield me, and so I went with the only play that I could think of. So if you're me, what the hell do you get here, given the circumstances? Assuming that you can't get Toxic Deluge, which is the card the play you've been setting up the whole game, because it kills his entire board and reduces him down to just 2 mana. What do you get? I'll let you guys think a little bit longer. I'm very curious to know if Nate would come up with it. All right, I'm not going to tell you. You're just going to have to see me draw it. And copy Artifact. So I decide that the route to victory here is to just get another Gilded Lotus into play. And that will allow me, because of the way this works, he does get to draw 2 extra cards off Ristic Study, but he is completely tapped out. So the extra cards aren't really that useful. And copying the Gilded Lotus will allow me to actually play my commander to use as a blocker. There's a Wargate and a land on top, so of course I'm going to put the Wargate back. Play the Mystic Sanctuary. Go get the Deprive again. And then I use Gilded Lotus, he gets to draw. Now there's Armageddon on top of his library. It's kind of a weird card for him to play, honestly. I don't see any accelerators. And seems very kind of anti what he's intending to do, right? If you have Golos, why the hell do you want to cast Armageddon? It's weird. Anyway, I'm going to copy the Gilded Lotus, and I've got exactly enough mana because my commander is absurdly cheap. Only costs 5. Oh, he does get to draw again. There's... Oh, shit. Anguished Unmaking on top of his deck. That is unreal. That's such bad luck. God. well, good luck for him, I suppose. And I'm at 8. And as soon as I see the anguish I'm making, I figure I've just lost the game because he needs only one land. It can even be a come into play tapped land. And because of Lotus Cobra, he can just anguish unmaking away Kenrith, hit me for 7, taking me to 1 life. And that's basically it. I don't really see what else I could do because even if I play Kenrith, let's see, if I play him 5, 6, yeah, I guess I could play him, untap this land, play a land from the graveyard, play Kenrith, and not pay the Ristic Study cost. He would cost 7. Yeah, I have exactly 10. So I would be able to actually play Kenrith in game 5. So I wouldn't be completely dead, but it would be pretty rough seas. So it goes to his turn, and he reveals Tireless Tracker. And there's nothing off the Sylvan. It's just absolutely insane. No land. Completely ridiculous luck on my part. That's so crazy that he didn't draw any land at all, given the fact that he drew all those extra cards when I was feeding the Ristic Study, and he has Sylvan Library in play. And presumably he's playing a deck with a lot of lands because, he's playing Golos deck, but he did not hit anything, not even to come into play tap land. So he's Grievesing the Oracle, unsure why, and he passes the turn back. Oh my god. All right, so now I've got the Deprive again. Arid Mesa, Wargate. Those are both going back. I probably should have given some thought to keeping the Wargate, given the fact that this is going to be a life gain turn off Kenrith to get myself out of lethal range. But I don't know. I don't really want to take too many risks here. I felt like it would be hard to lose once I've got Deprive and my king going. So I played a Misty Rainforest out of the graveyard. Back to his turn. All right, he's Sylvaning again. He's down to just 9 life, too. Muldrotha, the Gravetide. That's all these decadent Golos cards. No land again. So this turn I'm not screwing around. I'd like to be able to start putting counters on Kenrith or something or draw cards with it, but I feel that right now the way that I lose this game is something bad happens that I can't counter, and I just wind up taking lethal damage. So I'm going to just gain some life. Gain 5. Gain 5. Gain 5. God, that's so insane. 15 life. Absolutely nuts. Back to 22 just like that. Pretty good combo with Sylvan Library too. There's a Badlands and Mana Crypt. I'm going to actually take 4 here just to get the Mana Crypt into play. And I decide I don't even need to counter that. Had I thought this turn through a little bit better, I would have actually cast the Wrenn and 6 first, since I'm going to have leftover mana anyway. So play the land again from the graveyard, get a Bayou. I'm going to cast Wrenn and 6 and pay the tax on it. See, I could have used that 1 extra red mana to cast Mana Crypt too, so that's kind of stupid. Pinging away the Cobra, since it makes a lot of extra mana. He's Sylvaning again. He reveals Rainforest, and now there's a Witness on top of the deck. Golgari Rot Farm. Tons of lands just piling up here, but he can't attack. Can't really do much still. And he's got to try to pull the trigger at some point on the Anguished Unmaking. He should probably save it to kill off Winter Orb, is my feeling. Or he should just wait until he can activate Golos and hope there's something great on top of his library. But I'm going to try to not give him that kind of time. So at the end of the turn, this is actually trying to induce him to use his Anguished Unmaking right now, before he gets more mana available, when I know that I can deprive it. So I'm pumping up the Kenrith. Going to try to threaten lethal here very quickly. I'm impulsing at the end of the turn. Oh, sorry, there's just 3 mana artifacts and a Narset, so I put those all on the bottom. There they go. And sure enough, when I'm down to just 2 mana, he does the right thing and he casts Anguish Unmaking and he's targeting. I think you should probably go for the Winter Orb here, to be honest. Again, I don't think that if he's tapping 3 mana, I think his prospects of winning the game are practically 0 when I have this much artifact mana in play and there's a Winter Orb out. But he's going to try to kill Kenrith, even though I'm at 17. And this allows me to just deprive again. Can't pay, but no big deal. Another one of those cool forests. All right, upkeep. I win the coin flip. I've been doing that a lot tonight. All right, Mystical Teachings. Very, very nice. Use Sylvan. Alright, don't need life from the loam, and I will keep Tezzeret for 4 life. Play that again. And this is so nice, just having that card on top of my library means that with Kenrith I can pay 4 mana, draw the card, and immediately play it too for 2 more. So it's just like a hard lock. On every turn I have a counterspell now. I'm actually going to attack here. I was just hoping that he would just chump block me with Oracle Moldea, and I could just pump and give trample to Kenrith and kill him right away. I would only have to pump twice, but he actually did the smart thing. He blocked with Golos, and I do actually have enough mana right here. I did the math. I only need to pump 5 more counters, which is 10 mana. So I could tap Lotus, Thran Dynamo, and Mana Crypt and pump 5 times to take Kenrith up to 13/13 and kill him with Trample. But I felt that that was a little bit risky. I've seen most of the cards in his hand. You can see them all revealed here. There's like a Tracker, Muldrotha. There's also the Armageddon, of course. Well, I guess actually I went to the graveyard. Anyway, there's enough things that he could play that if I went all in on the tap on pumping up Kenrith, and he did have an answer to it, like Path to Exile, or if he had Swords to Plowshares or whatever, Condemn maybe, and he killed it, then I would have lost my entire turn and lost all my mana artifacts. Mana for the turn as well, and it could be disastrous. So I'm not going to take the risk. Just let his guy die. Replay Tezzeret the Seeker, paying the tax. Untap 2 Gilded Lotus. Get another land using my Wrenn and 6 and play a land from the graveyard. And I'm set up right here with Mystical Teachings into Mana Drain or whatever I happen to need it to do. Oh, look, Nyx Bloom Ancient. Brand new from Beyond Theros. This guy's absolutely nuts. A friend of mine asked me actually today about whether or not it would belong in Omnath. And still unsure. I don't think it's a 1v1 card. It might be pretty cool in multiplayer Omnath. But regardless, that doesn't really matter. And he casts Cursor of Krufix because he needs that toughness. And then he plays some more mana. Plays a Mox Diamond. And scoops. Because he knows that I'm not going to forget that I can pump the hell out of Kenrith. At the end of the turn, he knows I've got the ability to just draw a card and deprive whatever he does. Pump Kenrith up. Doesn't really need to get all that big anyways. It's 6. So, yeah. I mean, you can just see I need to deal a total of 12 damage, and it's already 8/8. So there's pretty much no way that he can stop it. And recognizing that, Mr. Leyline of the Boys packs it in to bring a conclusion to one hell of a game. This game was really, really awesome. I thought that definitely some judgment calls along the way. I don't feel like I played it perfectly. And in retrospect, I think that, well, I mean, obviously the play where I set up the Toxic Deluge that I just couldn't see in my deck was kind of an oversight. But it totally is a testimony to how utterly crazy Kenrith the Return King is once you have some mana. This is one of the most powerful, certainly the most powerful 5-color commander I think that's ever been made. It seems to dwarf the other 5-color commanders in power level, given how flexible and crazy it is, and goes really, really nicely in the Oath shell. I'm not entirely convinced that the whole Oath thing is even really that great of an idea, but I don't know. We just need to figure out some good creatures for it to make sense. It's not that hard to add Oath of Druids to your deck, and if you're playing green already, Sylvan and Oath, Wrenn and 6, those are kind of all the best green cards you can use. So it doesn't really hurt you that much to run green, to utilize Oath. I just need to figure out if that's ideal. Hope you guys enjoyed the game. I will continue to play more Kenrith games and hopefully get another one like this one soon that's fun and contested. See you guys soon.